this combo counter focus build, typical for most melee weapons before update 26, the Old Blood, is still pretty good. Condition Overload is a lot weaker, but not weak, and the combo counter doesn't give its damage bonus to light attacks anymore, but Condition Overload still powers a lot of the build's damage, and Blood Rush, while also weakened, is still doing a lot of work. But because Condition Overload is now base damage, just like Pressure Point, you may decide that Pressure Point now gives you a small enough benefit that you'll take it off and replace it with, say, Primed Reach or Healing Return. After all, most of this build isn't designed to do a lot of damage right away. This build powers up its damage over time with Blood Rush and Condition Overload. But what if you want that big damage right away on the first hit? What if you want to use a melee weapon to damage a status immune enemy, like a Kuva Lich? You could keep Pressure Point on this build so as to give yourself base damage to get started, but there's another completely different type of build that's viable as a Melee 3.0 that's much better at doing upfront damage like that. Behold! Innate Combo Heavy Attack Builds. These come in 4 basic flavors: Innate Initial Combo, Heavy Attack Triggered Effects, Multi-Hit Heavy Attacks, and Forced Proc Heavy Attacks. These builds allow you to spam heavy attacks as much as you want with the power of Corrupt Charge and effects like it. That locks your combo at a minimum value, allowing you to constantly heavy attack with those combo points, yet not lose them in the process. In this type of build, you won't usually want to use stance combos or light attacks at all. It's all about that alt-fire button. Some strengths of these builds are their ability to do respectable damage without status effects, their upfront healing from Lifestrike, and their extreme ease of use. Disadvantages include their reduced ability to deal with low follow-through multipliers on some classes of weapons, meaning that some heavy attack builds are less effective at dealing with crowds, something combo builds are very good at. Just make sure you choose the type of build and weapon that are good for whatever you're trying to do. The first type of heavy attack build I want to show you is a simple, high initial combo setup. The Fragor Prime has a special innate initial combo locked at 30 hits, so with Corrupt Charge you'll always have 60 hits, a 4x combo multiplier, with which you can do as many heavy attacks as you want for tremendous upfront damage and healing. At the time of this recording, there are 2 other weapons with innate initial combo, the Synod Heliocore and the Furex Wraith. Your heavy attack swing speed is affected by both attack speed and a new stat called windup, so I've added both windup mods and no attack speed, since it's easier to get attack speed elsewhere than windup. You could use Arcane Strike, a frame that increases attack speed like Valkyr or Gauss, and you could swap in some attack speed, perhaps in place of Primed Reach if you wanted to. I'm going to be showing you the builds in this video with Corrosive Projection and 1 Arcane Strike equipped, so they'll be getting some but not all of the help you might or might not give them. We'll come back to Corrosive Projection later. And do keep in mind that all of the builds I'm showing today feature Life Strike, so they all also heal you in addition to the damage they do. Larger weapons with higher base ranges tend to have weaker follow-through, a previously hidden stat that we can now see in the arsenal. A weapon's follow-through weakens its damage after the first enemy each swing hits, and hammers have very bad follow-through, only doing 40% of their total damage to any enemy hit beyond the first with each swing. Since 2 of the 3 weapons that can use this version of this type of build are hammers, swapping out Primed Reach for attack speed might be a strong option. Consider Prime Fury there. Since you'll only be hitting enemies once or twice, Pressure Point and Killing Blow provide upfront base damage instead of Condition Overload, and since these builds have few options if they can't get through higher level armor, ideally you want to pair them with loadouts that are using Corrosive Projection. Many types of primary and secondary builds are built to counter armor already, and remember that damage bonuses that affect armor do also pierce that much armor, but even so, you do want the extra little bit of help. Consider using other weapons in your loadout with builds less focused on countering armor to take full advantage of the presence of Corrosive Projection. Here's an example, a gas catch moon that can be fired forever at max range without ever stopping due to extremely high reload speed and pax charge, and this is a weapon that really appreciates Corrosive Projection. The second type of heavy attack build provides some mechanical payoff for heavy attacking, usually a special ability of the weapon. For example, the Sancti Magistar emits a healing pulse every time a heavy attack hits. That pulse heals you and allies, and can also heal objectives like excavation extractors and defense targets. This build is pretty similar to the first. Here I've dropped Life Strike because we've already got healing. I'm also using Sacrificial Steel instead of Blood Rush because this build only has 2x initial combo, which in this new system will only provide 60% crit chance from Blood Rush. Sacrificial Steel is slightly more upfront, and this build isn't made to accumulate any more combo hits. Other weapons that fall into this category would be things like the Caused Assist with its Sludge Waves, a bit of a crossover from the Synoid Heliocore, since it can create specters of fully scanned enemies killed by its heavy attacks, and possibly also glaive throwing builds, but that's another video. You may notice that the combo counter visually depletes and recharges when we heavy attack with initial combo. That's purely an aesthetic choice. You don't do any less damage with heavy attacks, even though the combo visually looks as if it has to fill back up. That's good, because even though these builds haven't been attacking very fast so far, some heavy attack builds come out very quickly. The third type of heavy attack build is something like this MACHETE WRAITH setup. Machetes hit 4 times with that first heavy attack, so these heavy attack builds can still comfortably leverage condition overload, even though you're only going to attack once. So far, I've found this specific version of the build to be most effective on machetes, due to their uniquely high multi-hit heavy attacks, but many categories of weapons have 2-hit heavy attacks, which I'll talk about in a minute. Consider making a Zal machete for this type of build too. This build asks a lot of a weapon's critical chance and status chance, since it has no combo mods to build them up. Those values will need to be high enough to be useful after only Sacrificial Steel and 2 status elemental mods. When they are, though, the result is a strange hybrid of a combo build and a heavy attack build. This is one of the few elegant ways to get some upfront base damage and also condition overload on the same build if you're looking for that. Machetes have somewhat higher range, and this spin attack hits everything on all sides, so I didn't feel Primed Reach was quite so worthwhile here. The fourth and final type of heavy attack build I want to show you right now is this Forced Proc style. Some weapon categories just automatically give you status effects when you heavy attack, and daggers, for example, give you impact and slash right away, allowing this weapon to use condition overload effectively with no status chance, which saves mod space, and in the case of this Za, allowed me to get more critical chance instead, since I already have the status for free. Truthfully, there's a lot I want to show you on this weapon. Daggers have the most impressive follow-through, losing only 10% of their damage when hitting additional enemies with each swing. Daggers also benefit a lot from the range rebalance and primed reach. Covert Lethality is now completely different and allows a dagger to reach 3x initial combo, making Blood Rush viable. And finally, this Za dagger has access to Exodia Brave, giving you unbelievable energy regeneration that's several times stronger than Zenrek's Energizing Dash, and you just get it by killing enemies. Every attack is going to be a heavy attack. You don't have to do all of that on the same weapon, but you can, and it's amazing. Keep in mind that every single build I've shown you not only does damage like this, but also has 20% lifesteal on every single attack, and again in this case it also gives you incredible energy regeneration. You'll notice that I didn't use Killing Blow here, partially due to limited space and condition overload, and also because wind-up caps at 0.2 seconds. Daggers have such low wind-up that you can get there with only Amalgam Organ Shatter. But attack speed affects heavy attack speed too, so for this example I built a similar weapon with the same build. This one has the slowest possible attack speed and highest possible damage you can get alongside this maximum amount of critical chance, and that weapon I was showing you before is the opposite. So which is better, the extra attack speed or the extra damage? To be clear, Redwood is the fast one and Fur is the slow one. I used the fast one first and the slower, higher base damage one second. I think the fast one is better. It flows from enemy to enemy more effectively, it doesn't keep you in the double swing animation as long, and it doesn't kill enemies significantly slower. I think that's because most of this damage is in that second hits slash proc boosted by condition overload. So I like the fast one, but I want to note that the difference is fairly small, so I wouldn't worry so much about using a slightly different grip and making yours a little faster or slower than one of the extremes. You'll save yourself from farming mountains of Pyrol too, which is way more important. As always, consider what else you're going to have in your loadout, or just what else you tend to have around when you play with your weapons. If you never give them any outside attack speed, yeah, probably go for the faster Za builds, or try to fit in Primed Fury on some of the other builds. If you never run Corrosive Projection, or you don't like weapons that don't already counter armor, be careful with the first 2 flavors of initial combo heavy attack build that I showed you earlier. There is a lot more to explore with this class of melee build, and there's at least one other melee build archetype that will make use of heavy attacks, although in a very different way. So experiment. These heavy attack builds are refreshing to me. They feel very different from focusing on your stance combos, and it feels awesome to crush Kuvalich thralls with them. One of my favorite strengths of these heavy attack builds is their ability to rapidly kill lone enemies, where combo builds usually want to attack in a crowd, build up combo, and get to their damage payoff as quickly as possible. These builds really give you a lot of impact up front. Give some of these builds a try, I hope you enjoy them, and I'll catch you next time.